Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Nick. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good, very good.
Good, good. Glad to hear it.
So, thanks for your time and availability as well. I know you're super busy. We're trying to set up this interview from, I mean, couple of days, not saying weeks, but yeah, we're making it.
Yeah, no, good. I'm glad we managed to make the time. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Okay, so first thing first, something about you for the people who are watching, where you're based, who you are, where you was born, and what you're doing at the moment. I'll leave it to you.
Sure, there's actually quite a lot to fit in here, I think, but I'll try and keep it quite short. I'm actually originally from the UK. Grew up in the UK. Based down in Cape Town. Uh, how I actually ended up in Cape Town is probably quite sort of a long story. I actually spent 9 years working in Lesotho, which is a tiny country that most people probably have never heard of, or most people I mention it to have never heard of it. I myself had never heard of it until I first went there. And I actually spent 9 years running, or 7 years running a football club in Lesotho, originally in the second division of Lesotho football, but we got promoted to the Premier League first year. Built a really exciting, was part of building a really exciting project there, alongside a charity called Kick for Life. And they were all about changing lives of youth through football. And alongside that, we were running the football side of things, and had a really exciting Premier League men's club, a women's Super League club, and did a lot for youth football. So that was a really exciting project. And then worked 2 years as the deputy CEO of the Lesotho Football Association. So had a really interesting 9 years working football in Lesotho, and then moved down to Cape Town about 15, 16 months ago, and have set up a consultancy business here, football management consultancy business, and an agency. So I've got a FIFA agent's license, and set up a player agency, sports agency. I mean, we're predominantly looking at football at the moment, but we'll probably venture into other sporting codes. And then set up various partnerships with different companies that are looking to get into football in Africa, and I'm working very closely with Umbro across the African continent as well, and doing quite a lot of work for them. So that's sort of probably my story in a nutshell, but it's been an interesting journey getting here.
It is interesting indeed. And so we had the opportunity to meet each other a couple of months ago in Nairobi, in Kenya,
Yeah,
at the African Football Business Summit.
yeah, correct. Yeah.
So the goal of this, the aim of this chat is to bring, like it wants to be an informational chat for the people in your industry with your similar roles, ideally, to relate to what this emotional intelligence is and how can become practical in daily life. So first of all, you have attended the presentation I delivered in Nairobi. How did you find the presentation?
Really interesting. I mean, what was really good, I think, is that obviously it was a football summit. People had been there. People came along because they're in the football industry or interested in the football industry. And I think what you brought was something completely sort of different to what most people are kind of used to. Most people in the football industry probably don't think about the importance of things like emotional intelligence. And I think you really got sort of people engaged and listening to actually how big a role emotional intelligence plays in sport and athletes, and actually how important it really is that we understand more about emotional intelligence. We understand that athletes are not just about what they do on the field, but actually probably in a lot of cases more about off the field. And I think you put across really in a very interesting way, in a very engaging way. You put across the importance of emotional intelligence and actually how does it relate to sport, and how important it is to sport. And I mean, I know for myself, and I know many other people that I spoke to, they've found it a really interesting topic, and delivered very well as well.
Thank you, Chris. And I completely agree on the fact that, say, the former view of an athlete was like mechanical, like athletes have been seen like robots. You go on the pitch, you perform, period. So now with more knowledge about psychology, sport psychology, emotional science, behavioral science as well, we tend to look at the athlete as a holistic human being, and this provides the athlete or empowers the athletes with the tools needed to overcome challenges which are not strictly related to the match or to the football pitch, let's say. But it might be the family, it might be the partner, it might be a financial situation, it might be a variety of things. So watching the athlete holistically, broadly, is the new mindset, let's say. So
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
yeah, go on.
So I was just going to say, I mean, I totally agree with that. And I think one thing that I've learned, especially working in Africa, and like I mentioned, I worked in Lesotho for 9 years, which is it's a small African country with many challenges. Yeah, everybody knows about the sort of high unemployment, high poverty rate. And one thing I really learned while I was working for was how many people actually come from a really difficult background. They're coming to perform for their teams and play with their teams and train every day, leaving behind sort of very difficult life at home. And I think I learned very quickly about the importance of understanding the athlete more about what their situation is off the field than on the field, because you need to understand what's behind the athlete and what contributes to their performance, what contributes to the way they are motivated, or the way that they, how their mindset is going into each training session, to each game. And I think I really became aware of that working in a country like Lesotho. And it's so much. I mean, to see some of these footballers, I think what people think, they just see, like you said, almost like robots. They come as these high performing athletes that can just turn up and play football and win you football matches and go home and everything's okay. And actually, they're coming from really, there's so much that could be going on in their lives, and I certainly saw that in Lesotho. It's also a high pressure environment as well, and I think you need to understand that. So I learned so much over the years there about the importance of understanding the mindset of the athlete and what's happening in their lives and what might be contributing to what's happening on the field, not just on a match day, but in terms of coming to training every day and making sure we're creating an environment for players that come from those difficult backgrounds and can come and feel supported to be able to do the job they're there to do. So I learned so much about the importance of that in my time in the suit. I mean, I completely agree with what you were saying.
Chris, I'll take advantage of your point about mindset management and as well emotional regulation too.
Yeah.
So how important is for a coach or an agent as well to understand the psycho-emotional spectrum of the athlete for them to provide the best support they can? Like it's 50-50, 60-40, what do you think?
I actually think it's more than 50-50. I honestly, I mean, again, learning from what I've picked up, I mean, and what I'm now doing as an agent, I think when we meet a player or when you get to know a player, the first thing you need to understand is not actually necessarily their football background, but what background are they coming from? What background's their family coming from? What are the things that they're experiencing day to day? And a good example of that now from an agency point of view is that we're engaging with young players at a certain club that we're working with here in South Africa. And I met one family who said, the kid every day is they're living in a township where bullets are going across the township every day, and they're almost having to dodge bullets to move around, and football's actually keeping them away from being involved in that sort of life. And I think that really, it really strikes you about the importance of really understanding where the player's coming from, where the athlete is coming from, understanding what their mindset is. And I think there's no point in trying to help a player as a coach or as an agent when actually you don't know anything about where they're coming from, what their background is. I think you're not going to just be able to move them to a certain place just because they're a high performing athlete without actually knowing how could they move to a certain country, could they adapt to a certain environment. And as a coach, do you know how to get the best out of a player if you don't really know what's happening at home or what their mindset is or what their problems they're facing? Any coach can come in and do technical drills and tactical drills and everything else, but actually what percentage you're going to get out of your players if you don't really understand what's happening in their life and what mindset they're coming in. So, I mean, I think it's something, I think more and more people are understanding the importance of it now than probably they used to, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done on that, because it really does drive the performance of a footballer and the ability to come and do their job. If you're not understanding, you know, where they're coming from, what mindset they're arriving in, and what their background is.
Lovely point, Chris. I'm grateful for there is a lot to do. I'd say I'm here for that. So I
Yeah.
see myself busy in the future, and it's something that it make me happy.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, just to add to that now, I mean, I think you've got a really important role to play. People like you can come into clubs, into federations, into agencies like mine, working both with individuals, with groups. I think to be able to come and actually play a role with around emotional intelligence, getting people to understand emotional intelligence, getting people to understand the role it plays in athletes and performance. You know, I think we really need people like you. And that's why, again, going back to saying, you know, a lot of people would see you at a football business summit and maybe think, why is there someone, an emotional intelligence coach here? What's that got to do with football? And I think actually it's time to understand that it's actually got a lot to do with football. And your people like you are just as important as people like coaches, myself as an agent. We can do so much, but you've got just as important role to play for the success of our athletes, for the success of our teams. And you know, I think more and more people are realizing that, and I think, you know, what you're doing is really, really important.
Thanks, Chris. It was motivational. Yeah, I'm very grateful. So you touched 2 points. The first one was you talk about an athlete moving to another country, moving to another championship with new peers. And I was thinking the moment of transition. Of course, technical and tactical skills are crucial. But I really like the point of how can we support an athlete in this transition? Because the pitch is the same, it's big the same.
Yeah.
There are still 11 on the pitch. The goal is the same, the ball is the same. But how can everything change in terms of performance?
Yeah.
So how do you think specifically in transitional moments, career changes, let's say, how important for clubs or agents, how important is to support the athlete with this typology of topics or professions?
I think it becomes even more important in that situation, because you see so many footballers that move from a different country to another country, or from a different environment to a different environment to a different environment, and struggle. And they're not struggling because the football's any different, because at the end of the day, yes, there's different football methodologies, you know, tactical, technical, whatever else, but ultimately football is the same wherever you're playing it, essentially. But where it becomes difficult is moving from one country to a completely different country, or one environment to a completely different environment. You suddenly got to think about what it's doing. Is it taking them away from home for the first time? Is it taking them away from family, having to learn a new culture, a new way of doing things, both on and off of the field? They need to adapt to moving into a new place, and it might be the first time for some players, for example, you're having to open bank accounts, or you know, there's so much that goes into that move. And again, it just shows that the important part is not making sure they understand how to play football in a new country. That doesn't change. The important part is how are they going to adapt from one situation into a completely new situation. And that support becomes even more vital, because without it, they're probably not going to adapt, or they're going to struggle to adapt. So it becomes really, really important in that situation, I think. And it's actually something, even through my agency, we play particular importance in making sure a player is getting a full holistic support package from us. We're not there just to move them from club to club, or negotiate contract and negotiate a new contract. We're there to make sure that where they are, they're fine. But if they're going to move, they've got all the support they need to move there and settle in and be happy. And, you know, have people involved that can offer services, and people like you that can offer your services to our clients, to make sure that they overcome any challenges they might face from moving from that different environment. So, I mean, yeah, really, really crucial, and becomes even more important, I think, in those situations.
You said the word environment,
Mm.
and by study, both psychology and sport psychology as well, we define the athlete as a creature that continuously interacts with the surrounding environment. And as you said, the football is essentially the same,
Yeah.
but the nutrition can be different, the temperature can be different, and then the people themselves are different. One might be more prone to make new friends, so you're gonna blend with the new environment and the new team a lot easily. Another one might be shy, so it might be stay all evening, close the home, playing video games, and not really interacting with the team. So becoming one of the team is going to be a little bit harder. So professionals like me helps to develop flexibility, relationship skills. So all factors not strictly related to the football pitch, but that can help performance in the football pitch.
Yeah, that exactly.
So what the clubs, if you have a suggestion based on your experience and your perspective, what the clubs or the agencies can do to support the athletes, both in transition moment and in growth moments?
I think there now needs to be a more holistic approach to the way clubs, academies, agencies, all of us stakeholders in football, how we approach working with our clients, working with our players, working with our teams. You know, I think that whole mindset, if you like, has to change now. And I think you know, I think clubs can do more, like engage people like yourself to have this whole holistic approach to it. So making sure that players are looked after off of the field, make sure that all the support they need. I think I mentioned just now that we're trying to pull in different resources into the agency to make sure that a player has access to a psychologist if they need it. That we have someone like yourself that can come and talk about emotional intelligence. That we can have people that can give financial advice, and just make sure that you're covering all those areas. And I think again, as I said before, in the past, you've had it that clubs, federations, academies, whatever, have been so focused on how do we develop a player on the pitch, but without making sure that they are in a good space off of it, they're never going to fulfill that potential. And again, I think the mindset is changing amongst everybody in football, and they're starting to understand that, but a lot more still needs to be done. So all about the holistic approach. That's what we're doing as an agency at Opus. That's what I tried to do at club level when I was running a club, was to make sure that everything we were doing was holistically, and making sure we were supporting players on and off of the field. But I think and in today's environment, in today's society, I think it's becoming more and more important. There's so many more distractions and so much more awareness about mental health and things like that, that support becomes more and more important. And I think clubs, federations need to understand that holistic support of a player is important, and drawing on the different resources that are out there, like yourself, like, you know, some of like ourselves as well, to really come and support the athletes across the board and not just on the field.
Thanks, Chris. Very valuable comment, vision from a very experienced professional as well. I really appreciate your contribution. So we are heading to the end.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great talking to you, Nick, today, actually. And again, I think just important to reiterate, you know, how vital the support, the services that you offer, you know, and how much clubs, players, agencies, federations, academies need to engage people like yourselves. And you know, it really will, you'll really see the results of it, I think, in today's society and in sport today, to really get the best out of our athletes. So well done on the job you're doing.
Great chat, Chris, and thanks for your comments as well. Yeah, very motivational for me as well. What plans do you have for next year?
Yeah, quite busy. So, you know, like I mentioned, I've got a football management consultancy and an agency. So it's, you know, we got a lot of work coming up, working with clubs, a lot of work trying to support our clients, and again, both on and off the field, like I've mentioned. We've got another few business football summits to talk at. So we're we're in Johannesburg in February. We're in Botswana in March. Hopefully Nairobi again in September. Uh, I'm actually going back to my old club in Lesotho and joining a charity tour that they're doing in Lesotho in March, uh, which I first did about 15 years ago before I moved there. So, you know, really looking forward to doing that. Off to the Africa Cup of Nations in January as well in the Ivory Coast. So busy year coming up, but you know, really excited about it and really looking forward to the opportunities that hopefully will come from it.
Definitely busy agenda, and happy for you, Chris. So I thank you
Thanks.
for your time and your, again, very valuable contributions.
Appreciate it, Nick. Thanks for having me on there today.
My pleasure. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Chris, and
Thanks,
see you
Nick.
soon. Yeah, all the best.
Okay. Cheers. Look forward to it.